Hello. Welcome, everybody. Everyone have some coffee already? Ready for a little bit of in-app gaming optimization stuff? Long, long time ago, in a faraway galaxy. Okay, that was it for that. A long, long time ago, really in a faraway galaxy, probably around, I guess, 2011, this industry only measured clicks and impressions. Now, it's not very valuable to a lot of people who are looking to do performance-based mobile advertising. So, we had to evolve. And do you have a microphone, by the way? So we had to evolve. And how did we evolve? We actually started measuring what people are doing inside the app and not just getting to an install. Test, test. Okay, this is much better. So when we started to track installs, we actually were able to measure what these clicks and impressions were leading to. But that was only the beginning of the app economy, because actually an install is not really currency unless you're an ad network and your job is to sell installs, and then you take those installs and you make money from them. That's great for you, but it's not really great for the developers that you work with, or the gaming companies, or the hotel companies, or anyone, right? Because that's the beginning of the story. Once you get the user, then you have to decide what are you going to do with them. So the industry shifted, and it shifted to going from just looking at getting installs now to actually looking what users are doing. And what are they doing inside the app? Are they buying? Are they registering an account? And different types of activity that they're doing in-app. And then taking that insight to actually replicate success. So how does it work? Okay, as you can see from this crazy diagram up here, basically when you measure, you're able to have insight. And when you have insight, you're able to go back and look at where those users came from and get more of them. What channels? Was it by SMS? Was it by QR code? Was it through a Facebook ad? Was it through a Twitter post? And that's how you replicate success. But you can't be successful unless you're measuring. So there's two types of in-app events. One is a standard event, and another is a rich event. Does anyone know what a standard in-app event is? Nobody. Okay, great. So we're at the beginning now. So a standard in-app event is measuring something that is very shallow in what it can offer you. For example, a registration, like this user registered, or a booking, this user booked. But what are you getting from that? Very little. Okay. It would probably not surprise you that over half of app marketers, this is not half of apps, this is half of app marketers don't measure any type of engagement or ROI at all. That means put the app out there, market blind, don't know what users are doing. Now, if you're one of those people, you should pay attention now, because there's a lot that you can learn from some of the insight here. And it doesn't matter if you are a gaming company, if you are a hotel app, if you are, you know, a browser, if you're anything that is running an app. So with, we're going to talk about 5, and this is just one of 5 recommendations for in-app events that you as app developers should use. And this is customized towards gaming, but it will help you to think along the lines of what you should be doing. So the first in-app event that we recommend you to do is tutorial completion. Why? Well, this is probably the first thing that app developers or games will ask you to do, is when you download the game, you go through a tutorial, and then you actually learn about the game. And then the game will ask you to do something. For example, register. So you want to know, did that user complete a tutorial? And what tutorial did they complete? Tutorial A, tutorial B, tutorial C. And how did they register? And getting that all in a single rich event tutorial completion, user came from here, saw tutorial 3, and registered with Facebook. So now you have much deeper resolution into what actually drove that tutorial completion. Then we also have level achieved. Now level achieved is very significant for gaming developers because you want to know how users are actually progressing through your game. So looking at level achieved, and you say, for example, this user who crossed level 15 came via via Google registration. Now, the insight that you might have is if users who are coming in from Google are actually progressing further in the game, maybe I should make the Google registration button bigger on my registration page. So there's insight, very, very little, small details here, but insight that you can get to actually help users to progress along in your game. And you wouldn't know this if you're not measuring it. Achievement unlocked. So I think this is something that is very important for game developers as well, because you want to know actually the skill of the users. How are they progressing? Did they complete a challenge better? Did this group of users complete a challenge versus that group of users? Or at what level they completed that challenge? So you take a lot of deep resolution into this event, and then you can use this to take further action. And then, of course, purchase. We heard a lot about whales earlier, and whales are very important. We all know that. There's also dolphins and there's unicorns, but this industry talks about them as whales or high spenders. You need to be able to measure when users are making purchases and actually what is behind that purchase. Did they purchase coins? Did they purchase a gold shield? Did they purchase a sword? Did they purchase actually a purchase just to pass the level because the level was too difficult? How much revenue was that purchase? How did they purchase? So did they purchase with a credit card, by using a offline payment gateway? What was the currency? And imagine having all that information that comes in with a purchase. Very, very powerful, because then it helps you identify more about your users and what they're doing. And of course, invites. Has anyone ever invited a friend to play a game? Candy Crush, maybe? Good. Jacob and Wandriel are both raising their hands. Thanks, guys, for listening. So, invite. So, the key, virality, we talk about virality a lot in this industry. And virality is actually when one user introduces or invites another user to the game. Why? Because that person who is inviting will get a reward, and they're probably passing a reward to that person that they bring in. Now, being able to measure these invites is very important. You need to know actually what is your most effective invite. Is it by SMS? Is it by a Facebook? Is it by email? How are users inviting other users to join? And actually, what's the content of that invite? Just simple things like the message, like come to save me from this game so I can get 5 gold coins, or save me from this game so I can get a golden shield. So one of those content is actually going to perform better than the other. So if you're measuring that, you're going to get a lot of insight from it. So, as this guy says, what if you could actually tell me what I would achieve from measuring these in-app events? That would be really great. Well, okay, yes, of course it would be great. That's why we're here. So first, you need to define your goals. Like, what are you trying to achieve? If you don't have any goals, then stop. And before you go forward, you need to sit down and think about, okay, what are my goals? What do I want to achieve? Okay, so if your goal is to acquire whales, like half of these people we're talking about, well, you actually need to know how to identify whales. Because if you can't identify them or know who they are, how are you going to target more of them? And whales are defined by, for example, how much revenue they generate, or their ARPU, how often they purchase, how they purchase, what they purchase. And then you start to build a segment for what a whale looks like. And if you're not measuring it, obviously you're not going to know. Increasing retention. Now, I tell game developers, and actually any app developer, that the first thing that you have to have is your retention, and you have to have it down correctly. Because if you're getting users and they're leaving the next day, then you have to stop. You have to stop because you're not achieving anything. So you need to be able to measure retention, because retention is the key to growth, and growth is the key to monetization, right? So you want to know what helps users to be better retained. Is it through having an easy tutorial completion? Is it through level progression, making the levels easier to get past rather than more difficult? Or through registration method? So whether you're forcing them to register in the beginning without even having tried your game, or getting them to register maybe after they've passed level 10. So these are things that you have to look at inside your app, and particularly inside your game, so that you can actually get the users to stay. The longer they stay, the more chance you have to monetize. And obviously you want to boost the virality of your game, right? So how do you boost virality? How do you get people to actually invite other people, right? How do you incentivize them? And how are they actually inviting other people? Are they sharing about your game? I mean, you need to look at this, because if people aren't talking about your game, then they're not coming, you're not going to get what we call the organic growth of your game. And organic growth is very important, because for every one user you buy, you probably want to be able to get 3 or 10 or 15 or 100 organic users. It depends on how popular your game is. So for example, if you look at a game like Candy Crush, it was like for every one user, 100 were coming in, or something like that. Okay, should I stop? Okay, repeat after me. Do go on. Okay, thank you. All right, so you want to zoom into your very valuable segments, right? So everything that I'm talking about, you're probably sitting there like, okay, now what, right? So a lot of us have studied marketing at some point in our careers, whether it was in first grade or in our INSEAD University MBA course. But you talk about market segments, and you need to be able to actually identify them, right? So you need to first measure the users, and you need to categorize them. And once you categorize them, then you can actually put them into a specific market segment. For example, daily active users, or social players, or create a category that you call platinum players, which could be women that are age 25 to 54 who have made 3 purchases and have been inactive for the last 7 days. So you create these segments, and with these segments, you treat them as marketing segments that you are going to target, these specific groups with specific stimulus. And obviously you want to pinpoint your top channels, right? Because if you know your segment and you know where these users, you know about these users, now the key is, how am I going to get more users like that? How am I going to create that segment and actually go out and target users? Which channel did they come from? Facebook, Google, Twitter, Line, whatever they came from. You need to be able to measure that. And you also need to be able to measure not only just what network, but what campaign you were running. Was it campaign A? Was it the green banner or the blue banner? Where was the ad served? Was it an interstitial? Was it a banner? Was it a video? You need to be measuring everything. And the more you measure, the more insight you have. And the more insight you have, the more chance you're going to give yourself to be successful. So you can run what we call advanced audience targeting. You create these segments, which in this industry we could be a lookalike audience. So I have a group of whales that look like this, and I want to find more of those whales, right? So I say, I know that most of those whales came from a video ad, this action video that came on Facebook, that were from a sports publisher site. So maybe you want to go and create an audience that looks like everyone that looks like that specific segment of whales. The other thing is you might want to just do segment retargeting. So as mentioned earlier about platinum players. So these are groups of users who have, for example, spent $25, or their LTV is $25, or they have been, they've played, they've been inactive for the past 7 days, but have already passed level 25. So you create a segment and then you retarget them. But whatever it is that you do, the bottom line is that you do have to measure, and measuring will help you gain this valuable insight to become successful. And obviously, keep calm and measure on. Thank you.
Could I please invite to the stage Mrs. Purnima Venkatesh to present a token of appreciation to our guest speaker?